Notable players could be on the move now that we've entered the month of June. So I want to play a game. We're going to call it Let's Make a Deal. We have Peter Schrager in our studio here. Let's start with Jalen Ramsey. Where do we sit with this guy?
Jalen Ramsey, June 1st, came and went, which means it's most likely he won't be cut. He's going to have to be traded for. And the fact of the matter is he is about due $20 million from the Miami Dolphins. He is apparently on the trading block, but there have been very few takers at that price tag. Still one of the best corners in football, and eventually, if he had to make the move, could be one of the best safeties in the game.
Well, I've got a general manager in the room. Tell me how this thing goes with Jalen Ramsey.
It's a little bit more complicated, Greg, because he has over $20 million in fully guaranteed money. So Team X may call, the Dolphins say, hey, we'll give you a fifth-round pick, but you got to eat, 80% of that money. So it's two negotiations going on at once, makes it more complicated.
Is he still a difference-making player? Is Jalen Ramsey still the guy who's going to go somewhere and will make a difference?
I think he gives up too many big plays for my taste right now, but I think he would be a perfect candidate to kind of move to that Charles Woodson hybrid role where he can be a safety and still be a lead and extend his career a lot longer because of his height and size. But it would help if you had a cheap quarterback because you can absorb that.
Sure.
How can you get one?
Let's talk about places where they might have that, like Cleveland. Peter, we touched on it briefly. Take me through that quarterback group.
This could be interchangeable with Flacco or Pickett, depending on which veteran quarterback ends up winning this job. I can't imagine they're going to keep both of these guys and two rookies on the roster, and it is cost efficient to see and to know what you have with a third-round pick in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round pick. I would think, just covering this game, that come training camp, one of these guys will emerge as the veteran quarterback, and the other one will be on the trading block. Kenny Pickett might be that guy.
I think Dallas is the perfect fit here, Green. Joe Milton's a developmental project, and I think right now, if you look at it, Kenny Pickett's a better player than Will Grier.
So you're saying the Cowboys maybe try and sign whoever doesn't win that quarterback job and winds up on the open market?
Yeah, and I would think, if I had to guess, I think Pickett would be gone, just given the success Flacco has had in Cleveland.
All right, and then let me get to the third one, because this is the one I'm the most interested in, and we'll get Bart in on that, and that is Kirk Cousins and his future in Atlanta.
Complicated. Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause, meaning he can decide if he wants to go anywhere or not. He is due massive, massive dollars. The team that he's being linked to, whether or not everyone wants to deny it or not, is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
For multiple reasons. One, obviously, there's a void in presence there right now without Aaron Rodgers there yet. Secondly, Raheem Morris and Mike Tomlin are arguably best of friends as far as their history together, going back to their time in Tampa. And Arthur Smith, despite the fact he never coached Cousins, did work with Terry Fontenot, did work with Arthur Blank. There is a familiarity there. A lot of this is just relationships. Mike T, you could pick up the phone and have a conversation knowing I've worked with this person before, I've dealt with these people before. Cousins to Pittsburgh, if Rodgers leaves them at the altar, it's a possibility.
Well, let me ask you this way. Is Cousins a better option for the Steelers at this point than Aaron Rodgers?
It is, but it's funny, right? Because it's talk about the butterfly effect. The reason why it's an opening there is because Kenny Pickett was a bust. If we're talking about Kenny Pickett going somewhere to be a great option to be a quarterback.
But is he a better option?
I believe so.
Kirk Cousins a better option than Rodgers?
Yes, because they're still trying to fill that void, and Kirk Cousins offers you multiple years of a solution. But with his injury history, and also his salary and his salary demands, what kind of deal does that mean going forward? Another team that could have benefited from Shedeur because they have a quarterback they have to pay. His name's T.J. Watt, who's going to reset the market.
Right. So, but all of that said,
yes.
If you're them, are you looking at Cousins as a more appealing option right now? Look, we have
not a
no
better.
idea where we are with Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think he's a better player. I think Aaron Rodgers had a sneaky, solid season coming back from the Achilles, but I think he offers you the ability to have 2 years of a system with one player that everybody can get comfortable around.
Play it out for me.
I totally see it the same way. He's 5 years younger than Aaron Rodgers. You might get 2 to 3 really good years out of Kirk Cousins. So to me, if I'm Pittsburgh, look, at some point, Will Howard has to become part of this conversation. Will Howard was a really good player. Didn't have a great offseason. Maybe they like him. I don't know, Green, but Mason Rudolph to me is going to have competition. And if I'm Pittsburgh and I can get some reasonable help on his salary, I'd much rather have Kirk Cousins than Aaron Rodgers.
They could have traded for Kirk Cousins in March. They could have traded for Kirk Cousins in April. To me, this seems like a desperate move to now say, okay, we'll pay the Kirk Cousins salary and we'll eat all this cost and we're going to bring him in. To me, you're with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard right now and you're waiting on Rodgers. But did this to yourself? Kirk Cousins is going to be a better option than Rodgers at that salary?
But desperate for who? Because last I checked, the Atlanta Falcons was $13 million over the salary cap. They have to eat some of that money to try and shed some of that money so they can sign some free agents and get somebody in the back end as well. So they're both stuck. They need a great partnership with each other to work it out.
All right, we'll see how it goes. I would like to point out for anyone who hasn't been, conversation, Bart, that we just had about basketball, about how might being around LeBron James rub off on Luka Doncic. And I'm not comparing the people involved. CD Lamb is not LeBron James. But the idea of someone who obviously has done it at the highest level and been great and been a professional and all that kind of stuff. I think that there is a chance that this George Pickens acquisition, particularly in the last year of his career, winds up being great, and the Cowboys wind up being much better than most people are projecting.
I think this is a perfect storm. I think, both could be each other's rabbit, right? Because CD wants to prove that he's the number one, and you got Pickens that wants to say, hey, I'm just as good. And for everybody that says, Pickens could be a problem, distraction, he acts his way out, and all those things, Shoddy is the perfect guy for it. I mean, he was the same guy that had Santonio Holmes and Braylon Edwards, guys who were ostracized from their previous teams and came there and played in perfect harmony. I think this Dallas Cowboys team is a sleeper because of their ability to be able to take shots down the field, and they built through the offensive line. TB knows something about that. They're going to run the ball, take shots, and they have the ultimate weapon in CD Lamb, who can run the whole route tree.
And just take that a step further, Green, as you allude to, Santonio Holmes and Braylon Edwards were in the last year of their deal. You have a highly motivated George Pickens. And the one thing that Shoddy probably wanted to get to in that piece was he's a point scorer. And when you have two physical guys like CD Lamb and George Pickens in a compressed part of the field, that tends to lead to scoring points, which is something you want to do when you're in the last year of a deal.
I've been bullish on this since the day it was made. We were here the morning that this trade went down, and I think I was the lone voice here saying I love this because of exactly what you guys are saying. Motivated individual. He's 24 years old, got a huge upside, final year of his contract, and oh, by the way, he has been publicly dragged in the media for the last 2 months by everyone outside of his own building saying that this guy was a cancer, he's a problem, he's cantankerous. I think if you can't perform now, knowing what could be at the end of the rainbow, it might not happen for him. So to me, George Pickens to Dallas, where he doesn't have all that pressure, I think it's a great spot.
Explain it, too. What's at the end of that rainbow is a pot of gold. You talking about you telling a 24-year-old kid that, hey, if you ball out, keep your nose straight, you're going to potentially get $100 million in a place with no state taxes, man? Come on, man.
Look, here's my only perceived with caution. Like, Mike Tomlin knows what a football player looks like, and he decided to pay DK Metcalf $30 million, and he let George Pickens graduate. So,
but it's the same guy. Listen, I don't know what is going on in Pittsburgh. One thing you can count on in Pittsburgh, they can draft a pass rusher and a receiver. But it's the same team that let Plesko Burns go. He went and won a Super Bowl. Let Santonio Holmes go. He had success when he left, right? Emmanuel Sanders. So listen, I don't know why they can't keep their receivers.
So one way or another, I think we all are saying essentially the same thing. It's relatively low risk, considering what they give up for it, and potentially very high reward, which I think is really good. The other thing about the Cowboys is, and you'll learn this as you spend more time with us here, we tend to talk about them a lot. And so when that means that the pendulum is really heavy, right? The more you pile onto it, so it swings too far in one direction and too far in the other. When the Cowboys are good, maybe we overstate how good they are. When they're bad, when they have a down year, we overstate how bad they are. The team won 7 games without their quarterback last year. Dak was hurt. And Graziano made the point last week. In an offseason where every team was trying to get better at quarterback, the Cowboys are adding Dak Prescott. Speaking of whom, he's another one we go too far.